Good morning, good afternoon. I am so excited to be here. I wanted to welcome everyone who has joined me. I am actually excited to look at this particular live session and really be able to, make sure I get my comments that I'm seeing. So if you have joined me, I would love to see you comment in the comment section. Let me know you're here. I will be going through a 6 week series on Ripple leadership. So as I go through the Ripple leadership, designing your leadership journey, it's actually all about your identity as a leader. So who are you as a leader? What behaviors do you have, and what behaviors do you need to change? Because as we look at, hello, Michelle from Portland, Oregon. I'm so excited that you are here. Thank you for letting me know. Anyone else, let me know that you are here, would be great. And as what we'll do today is really just talk about the beginning of starting your leadership journey and your identity. Wow, I have all these people from the West Coast. That's awesome. Hello, Howard. How are you this morning? And as we think about our journey and the places that we want to go, when we think about our leadership, it is everything we say and everything we do impacts us, those around us, and beyond. So that's what I really think about from your leadership journey. You as a leader, leaders have impact, whether you have a title or not, whether you have an office or not, whether you have direct reports or not, you have an impact and you have influence. And so we want to make sure that you're having the impact and the influence that you want to have in your desire. Looks like we're moving a little bit to the east. We've got Denver. Hi, Kate from Denver. Mackenzie's my neighbor up the street in Boerne, Texas. Hello, Mackenzie. Welcome. So as we continue to talk about the leadership journey, I want to ask you a question. And so the first question I want to ask you is, what influence or what experience from your past has created you as the leader you are today, has made you the leader that you are today? One of the things, and you can just drop that in the chat, what's an experience or an influence that's made you the leader you are today? So one of the things that I think about is I think about leaders that I've had in the past. And there was a leader that I had that had a lot of confidence in me, had a lot of investment in developing me as an individual, as a leader. And when I think back to these two individuals, actually, at this particular time, they were always listening. They were listening to what I was needing. They were listening to the questions I had, and they were listening to, how I could develop myself better. But then they were also providing input. Yeah, I love this willingness to try and fail. So I think is crazy is the fact that we fail. As long as we fail fast, we fail forward. That's one of the best ways that we can win. And challenges. Yes, those challenges, but then your father's leadership journey. So many of us as young children were influenced, whether it was our parents, our grandparents, our teachers, our Sunday school teacher, those in the community. If we are a sponge and we learn about these things, they all help build our story. So, one of the things that I want you to think about as you're starting to really dig deep and design your leadership journey is, where did you come from? What are the stories that you have had, experiences that you have had that have made you the leader that you are today? And some of them may be more challenging. Some of them may be good stories, but what are those stories that you've had in your past? And just write them down, journal them, answer the questions about teachers, bosses, peers, family members that have influenced you, and how have they influenced you, and what have they done that's helped you be the person that you are today. So that's the first thing I want you to think about, is the stories that are being told that have created you into who you are. And then the second thing I want you to think about is your values. So, what are your values? We all have our values. I think of values also as kind of a northern star, a guiding light. So, they point us in the right direction. And I'd love for you to drop in the chat if you want, what do you think some of your values are? It can be anything from, there's leadership values, there's personal values. Sometimes those align. But your values can be anything from, your spirituality or your faith or something like that. It can be collaboration. I really value that collaboration. It can be individuality, easy for me to say. So something that you value as a trait, wisdom. There's a lot of different things that you can look at that can be your values. It can be anywhere from, even think about um let's see, wisdom is a value, diversity is a value. There's a whole list of different values that you have. And if there are any values, even just leadership could be a value to you, something that you want to make sure that you are known for is leadership. So making sure that you have the values and you know what your values are. And, there's a lot of ways that you can go through different exercises, and you can even just Google values, and there's all these different lists that'll come up of different values. But knowing what your values are and how they influence your leadership is something that's going to be very important. Yeah, Michelle, family, legacy, supporting others, and joy. I think about that, and joy and happiness and harmony. Those are some of the things that I connect with. And what's interesting is one of the values that I have a lot of people talk about is even humor and laughter. So things can be, I just want life to be not so serious. I want life to be not so, maybe hard. I want it to be lighthearted. So thinking about those things, because as those values show up in your leadership, they're going to show up in the way that you lead others, and even the connection that you have with others. Yeah, faith, family, honesty, integrity, and joy. So Howard has some good ones. And what I think is interesting is we talk so much about the value of family. And I think a lot of times, maybe even years past, it was more of, your family's over here, your personal life is over here, and your professional life is over here. One of the things that I really think is critically important as a leader is that we're all one. We are all one whole person. And there are days where you may come into the office and you had a bad morning. And do you want to bring that into the office? Not necessarily, but it's still inside you. And so valuing, kind of the work life with the personal life is important. It goes the same way. You go home at night and maybe you've had a bad day, and you bring that home with you. And sometimes that gets hard. And so what we really want to do is we want to create that leadership journey. We want you to be able to craft your leadership identity that those people going to and from work, to and from home, are much more happy, the joy, the harmony, and that you're really working in order to make sure that what you're doing is working towards the leadership identity that you want to have. And so you're that one whole person. Um, and so kind of the next place I want to go is around success. So when you think about success and successful people, and you know what, people have all different definitions of what success is and what success is to them. But what I want you as a leader to think about is, what is success to you? And success could mean I want to be the CEO of the company I work for now or for my own company. Success could mean, you know what, I just want to be a leader of people. Success could be, I want to be an individual contributor so I can have the work life balance, so I can be involved with my kids in their activities and the things outside of life. So success looks different for everyone. And so I want you to think about how you can define success for you, and how does success look for you? Because you know what? It doesn't matter what anybody else's success is. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks success is. And sometimes that's hard because we think about the judgment that people have on us. And so we think we need to be successful, and success looks in a particular way. But what I want you to do is, as you design your leadership journey, as you design your identity, I want you to think about what success looks like to you. And maybe just write it down, the characteristics, back to the values, back to what a good leader looks like and what you want to be. And then as you uncover all of that and you decide what success looks like to you, then you're able to really dig deeper into looking at that success, looking at, okay, now I know what success looks like for me. How am I going to plan to get there? Because when I look at the different ways that we can be successful, it is all different. And I've worked with hundreds of leaders over my career, and every one of them has a different journey, a different plan. And so being able to identify that is the direction that we want to make sure you go with your leadership. And I love Howard's comment for him being happy, fulfilled, and making a positive difference in others' lives. And that's what we're really looking for. You know, we all have a mission and we all have things that we want to do. Mackenzie says that success for her is being happy with work and feeling proud of it. So that pridefulness, that's great. And so when we look at those different things, we're going to look at what success looks like to us. And so as we're doing that, that is going to help us identify, and it can be very different. There are lots of people out there where it's all around, financial success, wealth, what they have from a monetary perspective. And that's okay too. If that's what makes them, it all comes back to happiness in reality. So what makes you happy? And it can be all different things. And so what I want you to think about and what I want you to walk away with is reflecting on who you are as a leader and how you got there. Number two is the values that you have, and what values are in your personal life, in your professional life, and what are your true leadership values that are important to you. And then number three is, what does success look like for you? And so that's really where we're going to start. That's the foundation of identifying your leadership legacy, your leadership journey, and where you want to go. And I love the impact. So Michelle says success is creating a legacy that has a lasting impact. And one of the things that I think about when I think about legacy, and I love it because a lot of people think my legacy is what they're going to put on my tombstone at the end of my life. Not at all. Well, maybe they will, but your legacy starts today. You're building your legacy. And so when I think about the stories that we've talked about earlier, and the stories and the success and the values, all those go into your legacy, and they go into what people are saying about you. And so you think about how can you not only live your legacy today that you will leave tomorrow, but what does that look like? And so I'm glad that Michelle put that word legacy out there, because that is definitely something that is important. So those are the three things that I want you to start by thinking about. I want to find out if does anybody have a question? And I'm going to pause just a moment, or allow you just a moment. If you have any particular questions, drop those in the chat, and I will answer those as well. But what we'll be doing over the next, the additional 5 weeks, is going through really the journey that I've designed of Ripple leadership. So this is really just the foundation of Ripple and the Ripple leadership. And as we go into the next sections, we'll talk about what each one of those stands for. And it's the reflect, insights, plan, practice, lead, and evolve. So that's the acronym for Ripple, and we'll continue to build on that over the next 6 weeks. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious. Well, you know what? Maybe your children will be in charge, Michelle, of putting your tombstone, out there, and not your husband. Because you never know. I certainly don't think I would want my husband to choose what was on my tombstone, because I have no idea. It would be funny. That's what's interesting, is it would be very funny, because my husband, one of his values is humor. And so it would definitely be funny if it's left up to him. But we'll go from there. What other questions might you have? Anything about your leadership journey and designing this journey, the foundation of it? I'm going to pause for just a moment. Okay. Well, that wraps up our short little LinkedIn Live today. I appreciate so much you being live. Those who get to join later and watch the replay, you can still comment. I would love for you to comment on the post. And I'm going to answer Michelle's question: do our values change over time? So I think they can change over time. So as we grow and mature and develop, different things are going to be important to us. And we think about that even through from a leadership perspective, and from your phases of leadership. Your phases of life are going to align with your phases of leadership. And so when you think about that, there may be a point in time, maybe you are young, you're in your first career, and you have just all you're doing is working, and it is about developing your career, developing your values. And then you meet the love of your life, and you get married, and you're like, okay, I'm going to split my time a little bit more. So maybe your values maybe you didn't have family as values, or work-life balance as values. But then as you develop your career, as you develop your family, and maybe you have some children, and you start to see that, you know what, I need to figure out how to balance this. And so family might not have been one of your values when you started earlier in your career. Doesn't mean you don't love and care for your, extended family that you have, but they're not as time consuming, and you don't necessarily need to balance that as much. And so a lot of values, and I struggle with the word change, because I think change is maybe they adapt, they shift just a little bit. Because if you're someone that family is important to you, you'll go through those phases to where family is more important because you have your own family and you have kids and you have activities outside of work. And so you have to figure out how to balance that. Your financial or your spiritual values may change because they may come financial may get different because of some things that happen in your world or even the economy, so different things like that may be more important. So then Howard asked, in changing careers, how does your leadership evolve? So I love this. I love the question about evolve. When you look at evolving your leadership, and one of the things that it's the E in the ripple. So when you look at evolving your leadership, one of the things that is important is this process of reflecting and thinking about what's working, what's not working, and what do we want to do next. It's always evolving and changing because, we start at a level in our career that we don't start at the top. And if success looks like going to the top, then we're going to want to make sure that we're continually improving. We want to make sure that we become the obvious choice for the roles that we want to get us to where success looks like for us. And so as you're evolving, you have to always develop. So it's always developing your leadership skills, your leadership behaviors for the position and the role that you're in, and then the position and the role that you're aspiring to. So what's next? Because every level that you go up, it's going to be more demanding. There's going to be more challenges, and there are going to be different things that you're going to aspire to, or different behaviors you're going to need to do in order to be in that role. So that's how they'll evolve. But what's interesting is the process of always looking for yourself is looking for, how am I going to do better at that next level? And so always evolving and growing and developing. See, we had another question. What advice do you have for a new leader managing a team for their first time? So one of the things that's really interesting is I think first-time leaders need to be more transparent about their lack of knowledge in leadership and lack of experience in leadership, which is also hard. So they want to go out and say, you know what, I'm a leader and I've got this. You know what, there's nothing wrong with not knowing an answer or not doing it right the first time. Earlier in the broadcast, somebody mentioned fail fast. Mistakes are going to happen. And so being able to look at that and go, you know what, I'm a new leader, and being honest with your team. I'm a new leader. I want to make sure I understand what you need as a member of my team. What are your values? You could even kind of exchange values at that time. And one of the best things is creating that motivating environment and finding out what motivates those individuals. Motivation comes from within, it's intrinsic. And so knowing what motivates your team in order to create that environment that motivates them is going to be critically important. But really having that transparent conversation about and over communicating about what you're looking for, setting expectations, but then asking for feedback. Begin the practice now of asking for feedback. What am I doing as your leader that's working? And what could I do differently? And find out from them. And so being able to have those conversations is going to be very important and very helpful. Shannon, hi Shannon. Can a great leader become stagnant? And how can they overcome that? Absolutely they can. One of the behaviors that I work with, or assessments that I work with, is it's called the Hogan assessment. And one of the assessments that they have is they have one around potential and they have one around derailers, or the things that get in our way of us being successful. And sometimes they talk about that being as kind of the dark side of leadership, or the the derailers of leadership. And so we think of that a lot of times is when we're stressed. So when we're stressed, we get kind of sideways, and things get in our way. But when we're complacent or stagnant or bored, we can also get in our own way. So you really have to be careful of when things get potentially, you know, maybe too mundane or too routine. What can you do in order to develop the environment and create the environment that you're motivated to lead differently? And I think that can be done through conversations. It may be time for you to look at a new position. It may be time for you to look at additional challenges in order to grow your skills. So, absolutely. Let's see. And Michelle has the Ripple acronym down there. Thanks, Michelle, for dropping that in the chat. Reflect, insight, plan, practice, lead, and evolve. So that's good. Mackenzie adds that the communication is key. You know what? Creating a communication is so critically important. That it's really one of those things that we have to make sure that we do. So do you have a recommendation to help better identify and understand your core values? Absolutely. So there are a lot of different resources out there, and even Brene Brown. You can just Google Brene Brown, and she has this whole list of values that's out there. And you can kind of read through those and decide, what's important to you. But what I would recommend is that you rank those, and you kind of prioritize them to really think of what's important. The other thing that I think is important is to create your definition for that value. So, one of the things that we're doing actually in the program is I am designing a values activity. And part of that values activity is values cards that we'll go through in the program in how you can identify your values. And one that is interesting, and I'll call out, is because it's a good example, is like wealth. And I'm not even sure I'm going to put wealth in there. Wealth, money, whatever. But wealth is one. And the definition for wealth might be having more money than, my kids can spend. Okay, that's pretty dang wealthy. But someone might select wealth as a value because their definition is to have the funds and money in order to provide for my family so we don't have to struggle. It could be that simple. So one of the things, and the reason I explain that, is what's important is these words or values may have, you can even say an Oxford Dictionary definition, but they may mean something a little bit different to you. So when you go through the process of looking at those values, figure out exactly what that value definition means to you. And it can be something that is maybe a little bit different than others. One of mine is harmony. And I talk about creating harmony in homes all around the world. And I will tell you, my husband thinks that's the silliest thing ever, because it's like, you know what, Denise, are you really going to be able to do that? Well, you know what? Maybe not every home, but somebody's got to try, right? And so when I think about that harmony, I think about it: live, love, and laugh. You know what? We're going to live, love, and laugh. And that is going to be what we do in our household. And I would love for every household around the world to live, love, and laugh. Yeah. Oh, I love the way you expanded on that, Michelle. Wealth is important, but it's not just money. It's the wealth of your experiences, the people, the knowledge. Yeah, that's actually really good because it really expands so much. And what does that mean to you? And that's a great example of looking through how your values, the word or the definition, can be something that is a little bit to you. And the wealth, does provide the joy. And a little off topic, but there's always the money can't buy love. You know what? But it dang sure helps, because of the fact that it just makes life a little bit easier. But what does it bring? It brings joy, or it's the wealth of knowledge, or the wealth of people. I love that example. So find what your values are and define them for you. What is your definition of that value? And I would say, as we talk about values, really kind of get to a core 5 or 6 values. And when you look at those, these are the values that I have, and these are the decisions. These are my guiding light. I said that earlier, my North Star. I'm going to make decisions about my life, my leadership, my career choices based on aligning with these values. And are these values what's important to me? And are the decisions I'm making around my life in alignment with those particular values? Wonderful. Well, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate so much your engagement in the chat. And again, I will be doing this, for the next 5 weeks for sure. Maybe I'll keep doing it because it's been actually really fun. I've enjoyed it. But thank you, and continue to stay in touch. You can reach out to me at TeniseWaymeyer.com. You can find me on LinkedIn and all social media platforms. And I look forward to helping you design your leadership journey and your leadership identity. Thanks. Take care. Have a wonderful week.